Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 3rd meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish?
Here.
Councilmember Harrison?
Here.
Councilmember Song?
Here.
Councilmember Watson?
Here.
Councilmember Radina?
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Here.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer?
Here.
Councilmember Ackman?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs?
Here.
Councilmember Cornell? Here. We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Briggs. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. Do we have communications today from our city administrator?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. We do have an introduction from our Independent Community Police Oversight Commission, an update from our chair, Chair Carter.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and council members. You know, when I stood here and spoke with you a couple of weeks ago, I did so as the vice chair. What a difference a couple of weeks makes. I am now the chair of ICPOC, and so it is good to greet you in that position. Just by way of introduction, since you probably don't know me, I have been practicing law here in Washtenaw County for over 45 years. I initially started with the county prosecutor's office, so I worked with a lot of police officers every day. From there, I came here to the city attorney's office. I was an assistant city attorney and then first assistant city attorney, and as such, I represented police officers. When I retired from the city, which I think was 97 or 98, I went into private practice, and in that position, I sued police officers. I grew up in the city of Detroit, and when I grew up in the city of Detroit, the police could probably rightly have been called terrorists. We were terrified of them. They had an organization, I don't know if you've heard of it, the Big Four would ride through our communities, and they had guns sometimes sticking out of the back windows of the cars, and we would just run. So I think I have a pretty well-rounded view of policing. And I am happy to be here in this position today. So what is it then that you can expect? Probably nothing new. I'm standing on the shoes of some very capable previous chairs of this commission. But a couple of things that I'm looking at, and you may be hearing more about later. One has to do with our complaint review, and as you know, that's one of the main things that we do is review complaints. Some complaints come directly to ICPOC, some others come through the police department. We are hoping to get, and we're backlogged. We have not had an opportunity to review all of the complaints. Now I'm going to tell you exactly what we need, because I get this from folks who work with it, but we are hoping to get the creation of a spreadsheet and a web page. And as I understand it, this will allow us to post things that our progress, so that the community can know what we're doing and communicate between the information managers. And the vice chair now and I have a meeting, I believe, scheduled with the city administrator to see how we can move quickly with this project of getting our spreadsheet and everything up and running. So that's number one. The next thing we expect to do, you know, the police officers have business cards that they hand out if a citizen requests it. Right now, it identifies the officer, and it's also information about victims' rights. We are hoping, and maybe it might have to be a double-folded card, we're hoping to add information about ICPOC. And so that if the citizen has a complaint or a compliment about a police officer, they can contact us. So that's something that we hope to get going. We are looking at, you know, the Bible says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. And I believe that to be true. And sometimes, you know, things are set in the initial confrontation between the officer and the citizen. I hope to stress courtesy and kindness. And I think if we look at that first, a lot of things that can happen later and can escalate may possibly be averted. So hopefully we can build that into our training. And then finally, you may be, not finally that's all we're going to do, but that's all I'm going to tell you about tonight. You may have heard, you probably did hear about a study that was being conducted primarily through Eastern Michigan University with a grant that came down, sort of through ICPOC. And it's my understanding, this is a study of traffic stops in the city of Ann Arbor. And I wanted to give you a heads up. I am informed that the results of that study will be coming down this week. We had hoped to see it before, but we have not been, we don't know anything about what the results are going to be. And so we're not promoting it, we're just letting you know. It's supposed to be presented to ICPOC and council and the police department this week. So heads up, that may be coming, and maybe we'll want to talk about it more when that comes down. So thank you. Are there any questions? If so, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all cases have 3 minutes in which to speak, so whether here or online, please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. In all cases, when your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Rowan Marrow. Rowan Marrow.
Mayor, I was expecting Mr. Marrow to be in person.
Our next speaker is Mojan Savabiasafani.
Hello, Ann Arbor. I don't have to tell you, you know it, I'm sure you do, that this city council does not work for the public. They work very carefully and very long time for those who contribute to their campaigns. The mayor sitting here right now last year got $90,000 in campaign contributions. His buddies sitting here and giggling all the time, they got $30,000, $40,000 in campaign contributions. You can be sure those who gave them hundreds and thousands of dollars in campaign contributions are not gonna sit and watch as they do stuff to benefit us. They want stuff in return. Now, I tell you they don't work for us and they work for the rich in this town because Gilman is scot-free, has paid very little for the contamination, massive contamination of our waters. I tell you they work for the rich and not for us when we know for 20 years they've been talking about housing and shortage of housing. Still we don't have affordable housing, yet the developers are fat and nice. I tell you they work for the rich and not for us because after I made a big stink about $15 minimum wage during the past election time and discussions, and after this Miss America here, Dharma, agreed that we need $15 minimum wage, they still haven't installed it in Ann Arbor. Workers in Ann Arbor don't have $15 minimum wage. So they don't work for us, they work for the rich. We know that. This is still a limping liberal democracy. We can kick them out. This is still a limping liberal democracy. We can kick them out. I invite you to come and kick them out next election cycle. Their human rights record is even more atrocious. They've got a lady here who cares little, if any, for Palestinian human rights. She has even less understanding of Human Rights Commission in Ann Arbor. She's sitting there and, saying yes to Mr. Mayor. Yesterday, Mohammed Khaled Salabi was murdered in Palestine. He was 26 years old, and he had just graduated from medical school. Imagine if a medical student right here in Ann Arbor was murdered by the police. Israelis are murdering Palestinians on a daily basis. Now it's Ramadan and the festivities brings people to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they find every opportunity to torture people, stop their access to medical care, and shoot them dead. All I've been asking this esteemed group here is to say that they are against military aid to Israel. Yet they don't have the decency to do that. Kick them out. This is still not a dictatorship. And this mayor doesn't work for us.
Thank you.
I have zero respect for him and his buddies.
Our next speaker is Blaine Coleman.
In case anyone is wondering, why are we demanding a resolution against military aid to Israel? Here's why. Israel massacred thousands of Palestinian and Lebanese people and stole their land. Also, Israel sets the tone for how the United States treats Arabs and Muslims, with mass murder. With mass murder, that's how. So that brings us to Ann Arbor City Council, which loves to pass resolutions on global stuff, like global warming, like animal rights, like goldfish rights, like the rights of deer. Look at your mayor, a big loudmouth for white Ukrainians. But never, never will you see him stand up for Palestinian rights. He has no heart. Ann Arbor City Council has thrown its weight against every resolution for Palestinian rights for almost 40 years, since January 1984. Has this city council and this mayor ever looked at Palestinians as human beings? Ever? You tell me. As if there are rules for when you get to speak up for Palestinian human rights. And the rule is never, ever. The city council members sure seem to act like the rule is never, ever. But 90 campus resolutions have broken that gag rule. Those resolutions insist on Palestinian human rights. Amnesty International says Israel is committing the crime of apartheid against the Palestinian people. Human Rights Watch says so too. Black Lives Matter says so too. South Africa says so too. And what the hell do you say? Not a goddamn thing. While Israel butchers the Palestinian people, you can't even make eye contact. Israel is apartheid's last stand. So why is Ann Arbor City Council helping Israel to reload? To reload? Israel is so drunk with American guns and money that one of its highest officials has just said there is no such thing as the Palestinian people. And you say nothing. Malcolm X said, stop talking about the South. As long as you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. Well, guess what? When it comes to Palestinian rights, the Ann Arbor City Council is way south. South even of the Ku Klux Klan. Ann Arbor City Council, your racist ship is sinking fast. And I say, fuck you. Go down with that ship. Ann Arbor and the world will be better off after the voters throw you out. After the voters throw you out.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zachary Story.
Hello. I just wanted to talk today, just some general thoughts of housing in our city. I was thinking about like, I know there's a public hearing for the PUD, and it just bums me out that we have to do all these, one-by-one project things to get our badly needed housing in the city. And so I've also been hearing from a lot of people. I'm just getting more into urban planning and stuff like that, and asking people what their favorite cities are that they visited and stuff like that. And the most common answer that I get is Paris, believe it or not. And I really don't have a lot of money. I don't travel. So I'm like, well, instead of me traveling to Paris and checking it out, what if we made Ann Arbor more like Paris? And so what we could do is maybe aim for 1 million Ann Arbor residents, which still would have a significantly lower density than Paris. We would need, like, I believe, like 1.5 or 1.6 million people to have the same density as Paris. But we could have really lively neighborhoods with lots of, what I want to see is a lot of bigger apartment buildings with first floor activated space. And I think we're seeing in the closed streets for the summer are really winning a lot of people over of the benefits of having more, tables outside at cafes and restaurants and more programming, games for kids and special events and stuff like that. That doesn't have to just be limited to downtown. There's other areas in the city. We could give, families that maybe don't want to, that live far out from downtown and don't want to bike ride all the way through to downtown or something. If they have another kind of activated area of the city closer to them, and it just brings more creativity, more different types of people, and it will help the environment. When we're thinking of our 820 goals, it's like, well, or the environmental goals, like, well, anyways, I'll continue that another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Glenn Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, phone number ending in 733. Press star 6 to unmute your phone. Mr. Nelson, phone number ending in 733. Press star 6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
My name is Glenn Nelson. I am one of the co-leaders of Citizens for Mental Health and Public Safety. I urge you to allocate the city's revenue from the county mental health and public safety millage to the unarmed response program. The appropriation for millage funds of about $2.8 million per year would be in addition to the American Rescue Plan Act funding of $3.5 million. I will give two of the many reasons this would be good policy. First, the expansion of unarmed response will be another step forward in improving the quality of life in Ann Arbor. Everyone benefits from living in a community where all people feel that others care for them. In the words of Martin Luther King Jr., quote, "Our goal is to create a beloved community," end quote. A beloved community is especially important to those who live with a serious mental health issue, those in poverty, and those bearing the brunt of racial ethnic discrimination. Second, the use of the millage funds for unarmed response would increase the chances the millage will be renewed. Many, and perhaps most, people believe a millage labeled mental health and public safety on the ballot should be spent on mental health and public safety services. The pressing need for better services in these areas reinforces their view. The millage will expire after 2025 if not renewed or replaced. The replacement will probably be on the ballot in 2024. Now is the time for city policymakers to demonstrate that future tax revenues would be used for mental health and public safety services. Thank you for this opportunity to present my views.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Boris.
Kathy Boris, phone number ending in 644. Press star 6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Boris. I live at 1726 Charlton in the 5th Ward. I want to comment on DS1 on tonight's agenda. For the past 15 years, bonds of the type described in DS1 have been issued through the State Drinking Water Revolving Fund program. That was the case probably because the Drinking Water Revolving Fund program offers not only lower than market interest rates, but the potential for loan forgiveness. Considering those two very important factors, why is the city not planning to issue the bonds through the Drinking Water Revolving Fund program in this instance? I hope there will be some discussion of this before you vote to approve DS1, which is a notice of the city's intent to issue up to $45 million in water supply revenue bonds. Again, I hope I will find my answer in your discussion of DC1 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. I wanted to say that there are 2 public meetings coming up where people can offer their feedback on the new proposed drop-off station. The drop-off station is it's a critical part of our A20 plan, because what happens there is people take their unwanted materials and they get diverted, reused, and recycled to a highest and best use wherever that's practicable. So the drop-off station is a partnership with Recycle Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County, and it's really going to be an exciting and fun place. The current drop-off station is sinking slowly into the ground. And that's why we're moving it. And the staff won a very large grant to do this. It's just, the whole thing is so wonderful. And so I just wanted you to know that in Ann Arbor on Thursday, April 13th, which is next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Ann Arbor Senior Center in Burns Park, you can offer your feedback and your vision and your excitement. And really, you should be excited about the drop-off station, even if it doesn't immediately rise to your priorities. And I mean, you're like, everything you think about in the morning, first thing. And then if you want to meet in Pittsfield Township instead, Wednesday, April 19th at 6:30 p.m., and that's at the Pittsfield Township Hall, 6201 West Michigan Avenue. Okay, so, and then also the city has a new dashboard where you can find out when your neighborhood is scheduled for storm cleanup. And it's located at www.a2gov.org/storm response. And that'll be great. And it will reassure you, because we're about a third of the way through. And you can see when your pickup is coming up.
Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you. I wanted to, in case anyone wasn't paying attention to it, that the closures for pedestrian and business use downtown, the street closures will start on April 6th on East and West Liberty. It will be the same as last year, 4 p.m. on Thursdays to 6 a.m. on Mondays. On those 2 noted blocks until segment 1 of the construction happening on Main Street is done, which is anticipated in May. On West Liberty, it will be from the alley to Ashland, and on East Liberty, it will be from where the construction zone ends to Ford. When segment 1 of the construction is done, the closures will be shifting, and the Washington block closure between Main and Ashley will be added. So I know that there's a lot of feedback from the community that we've heard about. I've heard about the closures and support from them, so I wanted to make sure that we knew that those were coming.
Councilmember, your mic, I believe, is off for our friends. Oh, I received word that CTN couldn't hear you, so.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then for business owners in town, Community Mental Health is offering posters, postcards, and magnets that so if you're interested in receiving that, please contact the DEA, and they'd be happy to provide those to you for free. And then finally, Councilmember Briggs and I are having a constituent community listening hour at 4 p.m. on April 23rd. This is a shift from our regular schedule, so I wanted to note the date at 4 p.m. at the A2AC.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to share that Councilmember Radina and I are going to have our monthly coffee hour. It's going to take place on April 16th at 11 a.m. at York on Packard Road. I also wanted to share that, I'm excited about the upcoming Main Street downtown closures. There has been some accessibility issues that I've been talking about with Maura Thompson, Executive Director of the DDA. And she and DDA are super committed to making sure that, downtown street closures are still accessible for people with disabilities and older adults. So they have identified 3 additional accessible parking spots during that time, and they're in the process of being converted. It's East Liberty Street, on East Washington Street, and West Washington Street. And I'll make sure to also provide this information so it can be shared with the public. Thank you.
Councilmember Song.
I wanted to thank community organizers for their extra efforts the past couple of weeks and on working on the eviction crisis that was looming, where we had about 100 families living in hotels in the county, and with funding that was going to end on April 2nd. That was averted, so thanks to the county and county commissioners for allocating additional funds for that. But the question still remains as to what will we be doing every 6 months, what will we be doing when it gets cold again, how many families are at risk for homelessness in our county. So I've asked County Commissioner Somerville and Senator Irwin's office to work on a convening. I'd like to see all municipalities in the county gather and talk about this, the schools. If you talk to any school social worker who works on McKinney-Vento, which is a requirement to cover transportation for homeless students, to participate in these conversations, we'd have a real sense of the urgency around how we need housing for children in our community. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., there's a Planning Commission meeting and review of a parcel in Ward 2 that's up for review. It's the U of M Credit Union project that it's a one-story building with a drive-through next to another bank that's a one-story building with a drive-through. Community members are against this. I myself am against this, and our hopes is that community members will come and give public comments. This city is hiring for summer activities, and we've heard from a number of families who are struggling for summer childcare, daycare. Thankfully, the city pays over $15 an hour to our employees, and there are a number of job openings on our website. And then finally, I wanted to, one other thing. On April 14th, Washington Housing Alliance and the League of, LSSC, Legal Services of South Central Michigan is hosting an event, the Eviction Process and Tenant Rights event at 1:30. It's free, and you can register online at that. So finally, I just want to give my support for GEO lecturers who are on strike. I was a lecturer at the School of Social Work and only worked for a semester because the pay didn't cover childcare. So I wish them luck as they try for better pay in a very expensive, very, very expensive city. Thanks.
Councilmember Watson.
I'd like to invite residents to my next coffee hour, Sunday, April 23rd from 3 to 4 p.m. at Sweetwater's on Plymouth and Green. Please join me to talk city issues and enjoy some coffee or tea. Thanks.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Ackman.
I wanted to thank everyone that came out today to the rollout event for Spin. They rolled out their new bike share program, so we now have bike share in the city. You should be able to access it through the Spin app, and it was just wonderful to see everybody coming out, testing out the bikes, and seeing the capabilities that are offered by a bike to go further, especially with the e-bikes. So just happy to let people know about that.
Further communication from council. I would like to request confirmation of the following appointment that was presented to the City Council on the March 20th, 2023 regular session to the Board of Review, Ann Harlow. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. I'd like to recommend the following nomination for your consideration to the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority, Dr. Elizabeth Gerber. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Harrison. CA4. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The consent agenda, with the exception of CA4, is approved with 11 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement with respect to CA2.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, we've lost CTN on Zoom.
Okay. Do we anticipate?
I think City Attorney Carr is going to go check in with him.
All right.
I'm not sure we'll be able to see anybody if you need somebody to speak on this item,
On the public hearing?
on CA4.
Oh, I see. Did we approve? Let's reconvene at 7:40. Mr. Mahoney, we are conspiring against you.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. I just want to talk a little bit about substance use disease. In reference to opioid use and substance use disorder, it's important for folks to understand that the language to use when relating to addiction is important. Words matter, and choosing the right language helps to decrease stigma and provide compassionate support for persons with substance use disorders and their families and the communities that support them. Choosing the right language leads to more effective treatment and encourages persons with a substance use disorder to get the help they need, that they so need and deserve. Michigan's opioid epidemic is complex. Understanding it requires multiple intricate and interconnected factors that have produced health inequities and made entire communities susceptible to adverse health outcomes. Reducing disparities must be a focus of programs funded with the opioid settlement funds. Investing in evidence-based prevention, interventions, recovery supports, harm reduction efforts, and implementing criminal legal reforms to transition to a less punitive and more health-focused approach will all be key. I am calling on the City of Ann Arbor and the surrounding communities to be a leader in reducing stigma, promoting recovery from this disease by treating all people that suffer with a substance use disorder with dignity and respect. After all, opioid use and substance use disorder is a chronic illness and not a moral failing. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, you need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the specific item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all cases, both in person and online, will have 3 minutes in which to speak. So in each context, please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. In all cases, when your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, an ordinance to amend Section 8527 of Chapter 105 Housing Code of Title 8, Building Regulations of the City of Ann Arbor Code. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this public hearing in-house?
I would just like to thank you for considering this, and I think it's something that's a no-brainer, and especially I remember in the news there was a carbon monoxide death that we had in that county, if not the city. So to bring older buildings to require carbon monoxide detectors is an excellent thing, and it also brings our laws into alignment with state laws, which is also very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, we have a few callers. Adam Jessicavich.
Hi, this is Adam Jessicavich in the 4th Ward, and I was really glad to see this on the agenda, and I think as the previous speaker said, it's a no-brainer to require carbon monoxide detectors. I was actually, when I found out that it was not required already, it was pretty shocking to me. So, especially now you can get the ones that last for 10 years without replacing any batteries. You know, let's just do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 534. Press *6. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Tom Staablberg calling from Lower Town. I'm a landlord and I support this. Thank you for this ordinance. That's all.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers on the line with their hands up.
Seeing no one further, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, rezoning of 3.13 acres from TWP Township to R1B, single family to PUD planned unit development, North Maple Apartments, rezoning 1815, 1855, and 1875 North Maple, and 1921 Calvin Street. Is there anyone who'd like to speak at this public hearing?
Hi, so I spoke at the previous comment saying that it's just kind of frustrating that we have to do like the 1-by-1 PUDs, but I am in favor of this. I'm glad that we're getting a little bit denser housing in these areas. But what I'd like to see for the future is having less parking and more building. And just to keep in mind that we're in quite a housing crisis, not just in the city, but nationwide, that's been commented on by the president, and I also believe the governor. So we just got to keep having that in focus, that we're behind, and try to see what we can do to catch back up. So thank you, and I'm excited to see some new housing construction.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing? Please come on up.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Nieto. I am a member of 1650 Calvin Street. I have been there for 4 years. My neighbors have been there for almost 40 years. That area was a farmland many, many years ago. We love that area. We love our neighborhood. We are actually zoned Scioto Township right now. And I guess one concern I have with rezoning skyscrapers in that area with no tenant parking allocated. Currently, there is a development being placed towards that roundabout by M14. I'm concerned with the access to those, because currently there's zero access to that plot that butts up right up to M14, except 1650 Calvin Street Road. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of traffic plans have been laid out for, I don't know how many units are going in there, hundreds. Where are they going to park? Do people expect them to park in other people's property? I think there's some major things that I would like to see, in addition to parking. I don't know if anybody's been on that road on Maple Street, kind of heading towards M14. It's backed up almost to Jackson Road already. So we have one lane going each way. So I don't know if there's any recommendations or plans to actually widen the roads, but if somebody is expecting to put 1 million people into a city that has 2-lane roads, there's a major problem right there. It almost appears that there's the cart before the horse, as opposed to it being clearly mapped out, like what is the traffic study? How many people are going to be on the road? There is a high school, Skyline High School. There are children walking back and forth to that school, crossing 2 roundabouts to get to school. There are, bike lanes everywhere. People are getting to classes. There's neighborhood elementary schools, Hazley, Abbott, everywhere, and you're just going to throw a bunch of units there and expect just everything to work itself out. I think there's some major things I would like to see, and I don't think it's just because I live at Calvin Street. I don't want 30-story high-rises in my backyard. Indeed, I do not want that. But I would ask you, if you lived on a beautiful property for many years, how would you like, a skyscraper when you walked out your back door to see that? I just present that to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Good evening to everyone in attendance tonight, Mayor, council members. My name is Jeff Wilkerson, and I am the developer and managing partner for the North Maple Apartment Project. I'm also the founder of A2 Collaborative, a local design development firm that is focused on innovative, forward-reaching housing solutions that incorporate various elements of sustainability, affordability, and community connectivity. I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss the proposed PUD rezoning specific to the project and why I feel that this zoning is appropriate. The current site includes 4 large parcels that were previously classified as township and R1B. Combined, these parcels total 3.13 acres, yet the current zoning only provides for 3 residential housing units. In consideration of the location along a major transit corridor, in proximity to parks and community amenities, with ample access to public utilities, this is a vastly underutilized resource. The PUD proposal, the zoning proposal for tonight allows the site to be utilized in a far more efficient way. Most importantly, the new zoning would allow for the addition of 79 critically needed new housing units, of which 12 of those would be allocated as affordable and provided on-site. The building and clubhouse design maintains a modest footprint and preserves natural site features and open space. Orientation to Maple Road allows for efficient connectivity to public utilities, as well as access to public transportation. Setback proposals and landscape buffers will minimize disruption to current residents, both during and after construction. In fact, the location of the site itself offers a substantial buffer for current Ann Arbor residents. In order to meet the future needs of the community, it is critical that we support a diversity of housing opportunities that bolster the economic and social well-being of the current and future residents. This PUD rezoning meets the sustainability objectives of the city while preserving and enhancing access to local resources that ultimately benefit all members of the Ann Arbor community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, we have a couple callers online. Adam Jessicavich, do you have a comment?
Yeah, hi, this is Adam Jessicavich in the 4th Ward. I'd just like to address a couple of things that a previous speaker mentioned. First of all, the idea that this development is 30-story skyscrapers. It's 4 stories, which is hardly a skyscraper or a high-rise, or, you know, I'm not even sure I'd call it a mid-rise. No parking. I think it has 65 spaces. There was a mention of hundreds of units. It's 79 units, actually. And a few things that I really like about this development are, I like the idea of the developer putting in a bus stop out in front and a crosswalk. I think that's sorely needed in that location, having another crosswalk there. And I like that it's fully electrified, which, you know, I know we've had a lot of discussions around that as a city. So, yeah, I think this is a good development and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 534. Press *6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Tom Staablberg again, calling from Lowertown in Ann Arbor. I would like to compliment the development team on this project. I've been following this since the initial pre-PUD meeting. What this developer has done is something we'd like all developers to do. They studied what the city wants, what the community has said it wants, in terms of sustainability, affordable housing, and they designed it from the start to meet what our city says it wants. They're not looking to get around the rules like some other developments do. They designed this very intentionally to meet what they studied and learned was what the city of Ann Arbor would like to see. So they deserve to be complimented. For those who don't know, I used to develop subdivisions in Oakland County. This is what we would do. We would go to a community before we even had the land in the community, where we intended to develop. And we learned what that community would want, and we brought in proposals to meet those needs, as opposed to other developers that decide what they want and try to get a city or community to bend to their will. So I really want to let council know that people are watching. Developers are watching your council meetings, and you are sending a message with every vote you make. In the case of this developer, they've listened well to what our community has said it wants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers on the line. Caller with the phone number ending in 039, press star 6 to unmute your phone. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Selena Kaufman. I live in the Abbott neighborhood, not far from where this housing development is proposed, and I'm calling in to give an alternate view as somebody who very much wants more neighbors, more residents, more everything in my city. My husband and I moved here over 10 years ago from San Francisco, where the issues were that they were continually blocking new development, new housing, and it ended up being a very bad situation for families and for the city as a whole. We came here to Ann Arbor because it's a wonderful city that has development, that has the potential for growth, and I want more neighbors in my neighborhood. I want more restaurants. I want more people walking their dogs, more young people in our neighborhood, which I think this housing would allow, and so I'm speaking in favor of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers on the line.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 3, resolution to approve the North Maple Apartments Site Plan and Development Agreement 1815, 1855, and 1875 North Maple Road and 1921 Calvin Street. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Hello, Mayor, council members, members of the community in attendance. I'd just like to take the next few minutes to highlight some of the major sustainability and design features of the site plan. First among those is a full commitment to all electrification. North Maple Apartments will be all electric from day one and will include all electric Energy Star appliances as well as an all electric HVAC system. Reduced on-site energy usage is key to producing low carbon impact buildings, and early design decisions must commit to minimizing energy demand. The North Maple Apartments wall and window sections were designed to exceed current Michigan building code and include a continuous, unbroken insulation layer to minimize thermal bridging. Furthermore, the building's triple pane windows underwent extensive performance analysis to ensure maximum effectiveness in air infiltration, water penetration, and structural wind load testing. The incorporation of photovoltaic technology will allow for the on-site production of 147 megawatts of electricity annually via a 112 kilowatt rooftop solar array. Our energy modeling projects that these panels should offset as much as 15% of the building's anticipated annual energy usage. The geothermal design for the project has undergone engineering review, and in coordination with an optimized thermal envelope would make use of 19 500-foot borings located primarily in the courtyard that would provide all of the required heating and cooling needs for the building on an annual basis. The system would be zoned such that it would, in the event of one of these zones being disabled for maintenance or any other reason, the entirety of the system could still effectively deliver heating and cooling needs to the building's residents. The North Maple site plan was also designed to promote non-vehicular usage, including the pedestrian crosswalk on North Maple that connects directly to Garden Homes Park, and a newly proposed sidewalk on the west side of Maple would fill a much-needed gap between Maple Cove and the M14 interchange. On-site amenities allow for ease of bike storage and maintenance for future residents, as well as public transportation infrastructure via a covered bus stop. We are proud of the design and sustainability elements included in this project, and it's my hope that Council will offer its support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in House who would like to speak at this public hearing?
All right, yeah, so I just kind of wanted to call out the reality that we do live in Michigan, and you know, we do need cars to drive to get places. So, you know, I don't agree with not having enough parking spots for these tenants. So, I don't really, you know, if each unit has, let's say, a couple living there, they're each going to have 2 cars. So, if each unit, I mean, the math doesn't add up. Where are these cars going to go? You know, it's not fully fleshed out. I think it's a great idea to put people in Ann Arbor, but you know, if there's no way for them to get to where they need to go or park, you know, nobody's going to be riding a bike in the winter. Let's be real. I love riding my bike. I'm all for bike lanes, but to think that somebody is not going to have a car, it just seems very, very far-fetched to me. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that I'm a person that doesn't have a car, and I live in the city, and it is glorious. I save tens of thousands of dollars a year per year, and this development, like others have said, is going to install a new bus stop. And I take the bus. I get around the city. It's becoming easier with the millage and stuff like that. And so. And when we add more people we'll have more tax revenue to make our public transportation and bike lanes even better. Maybe at some point we can have some kind of heating technology to melt snow in the bike lanes in the winter. And especially if we open up the city to 1 million Ann Arborites, the sky is truly the limit.
Thank you. Ma'am? Is there anyone else in the House who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Luis Vasquez, do you have a comment?
Hi, greetings, Ann Arbor City Council. Luis Vasquez, resident of Upper Lower Town. Very much in favor of this development. It helps to alleviate some of the housing crisis that we are currently experiencing in Ann Arbor. My only complaint is that I wish it were a skyscraper. Thank you very much. Very much in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, one more. Brandon Dimcheff, do you have a comment?
Yeah, hi. Brandon Dimcheff. I live in the 4th Ward. I think this is a great project overall. I hope one day we will be able to get away with doing less parking than this, but I don't think that there's much of a concern there. People who want to have 3 cars and an RV aren't going to live in this building, right? Like, people self-collect for the type of housing that they need. My wife and I went down to 1 car recently. It's been great. Saved a lot of money. I put snow tires on my bike this winter and rode all winter. There are a lot of people who are interested in living that sort of lifestyle. This gives them a great opportunity to do so. I hope that you approve it tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't have any other callers on the line with their hands up.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular session meeting minutes of March 2023. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Adina. Discussion, please, of A1. All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. B1, an ordinance to amend an ordinance to amend Section 8527 of Chapter 105 Housing Code of Title 8 Building Regulations of the Ann Arbor City Code. Moved by Councilmember Adina, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of B1. Whose is this? Councilmember Cornell.
I just want to thank everyone who's offered input, and I want to express gratitude again to the Renters Commission for informing this, for allowing me to come and present the idea. I agree that it seems like a no-brainer to want to advance the safety of renters in Ann Arbor and to bring equipment that could really save lives and is not at all expensive to install and to maintain, and just make that part of what we do as a city. So I'm really pleased to see this tonight and hope my colleagues will be supportive.
Further discussion? Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor, and I agree. I think this is a really great ordinance change. I do think it's a no-brainer as well, but that doesn't mean that it didn't come with a lot of hard work. And so I just want to thank Councilmember Cornell for spearheading this and working with staff and engaging with all of the stakeholders. I know Renters Commission was very excited about it when they had the opportunity to weigh in, and I know that staff did a lot of work engaging with property owners and landlords as well. And so I think this is a positive change, and just want to thank everyone for their contributions to it.
Further discussion? Councilmember Briggs.
I just wanted to voice my support for this and thank my colleague, Councilmember Cornell in the 5th Ward, for bringing this forward, and to the other co-sponsors and the Renters Commission. I've heard broad support from this from residents and landlords as well, so it's great to see. And also would like to thank the 5th Ward resident that brought this forward to us and asked to be listed as a co-sponsor.
Further discussion? Echoing the consensus, I'm very excited by this resolution, by this ordinance. It is a important public health change that we're able to make, important advancement for public health. We want to make sure that the majority of our residents who do indeed rent are as safe as we can help make them, and this is going to be an important step in that direction. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. B2, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55 zoning, rezoning of 3.13 acres from TWP Township District and R1B Single Family to PUD, Planned Unit Development, North Maple Apartments, rezoning 1815, 1855, and 1875 North Maple and 1921 Calvin Street. Moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of B2. Councilmember Dish.
We are asked just to address the rezoning right now, so I will not talk about the site plan, but approval of this resolution will rezone a 3.13-acre site that's currently zoned township and single-family R1B to a PUD, planned unit development, and clear the way for its redevelopment as a 4-story, 79-unit apartment building, of which 12 units are required to be permanently affordable.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DB1, resolution requesting the city administrator to engage with the Michigan Legislature and Michigan Public Service Commission to advance energy equity and resilience. Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, second by Councilmember Redina, my apologies. Discussion of DB1? Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Thank you. So, this resolution was really, it's about equity and energy justice. And I want to thank everyone who helped to work on this. It's about having DTE being accountable to ratepayers, to us, and not just their shareholders, and compensate us for outages, among many other things. 2 meetings ago, this was referred to the Energy Commission, and I believe that they provided really valuable input that helped to strengthen this resolution. One of them was not allowing DTE to use ratepayer money for lobbying, and there's several other things that that Councilmember Briggs can also touch upon because she was involved in that. I did add something into the resolution around reporting and DTE. Currently, there's no real public forum in which DTE reports to us. When an outage happens, their staff works with our city staff, or when issues come up, we will work with their lobbyists. We need to have a public forum in which they respond to our issues, our complaints, and they tell us our progress, or there's no way for us to hold them accountable. So I put in that, I added in that they should report out at Energy Commission meetings on a quarterly basis, and this will be a controlled environment. Given some of these additions, I'd like to make a motion to approve the substitute resolution.
To amend the resolution by substituting the substitute resolution, which is in the packet.
Yes.
Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Briggs. Is that friendly? You still have the floor.
Thank you. Councilmember Briggs, do you want to add anything about the Energy Commission? Or no? Do I have to?
You control yourself.
Okay. Thank you. And moving on.
Further discussion. Councilmember Briggs, perhaps a window into the Energy Commission.
Yes, let me say the Energy Commission was very enthusiastic and appreciative of being able to review the resolution. They did offer a number of additional recommendations, which are, I think, very much in line with the items that are put in here. I think I'm not going to review each one of them. I'll let folks kind of go through and take a look because there's a fair amount of bullet points in the resolution. But I guess I'll just say that there's broad support from the Energy Commission and certainly my support for moving this forward.
Further discussion? Councilmember Ackman.
So I'll be supporting this tonight. There's a lot in this. It was a very meaty resolution. One thing I wanted to comment on in particular was the first resolved clause that calls on the Michigan Public Services Commission to pass legislation to eliminate or lift the 1% distributed generation cap to increase energy reliability and capacity. Why is this important? Well, according to a March 3rd report in the Detroit News, DTE Energy is predicting that they're going to reach this 1% milestone this July. And that means that they're going to be able to cut the rate that they pay for home solar that goes back into the grid to customers who have installed the panels. They're allowed to do this. They're allowed to cap their participation in distributed generation. And that amount is 1% right now of average peak load. This, the impact that this has, it makes it harder for people to pay off their home solar system. It hurts businesses that are doing solar installation. All of the things that we want to encourage, it basically disincentivizes. Ironically enough, DTE's filing on this matter came 6 days before the ice storm that knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of DTE customers. Something that, by the way, residents that had solar with a battery backup were actually able to bear. And so what they're basically proposing right now, they pay between 9 and 15 cents per kilowatt hour when you give energy back into the grid. And they're proposing that once this limit is reached, they pay 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So in other words, a quarter of what they are paying right now. The 1% number is arbitrary, it goes against our goals, and it needs to go away. So let's see a fair system for paying folks for the excess energy that they are generating. Thank you.
Further discussion? Sorry, Councilmember Song.
You know, the one thing that I think we keep forgetting to consider is the impact the storm has had on our community when it comes to our social service agencies who've had to dig deep out of slim budgets already to assist community members. Community Action Network had to have an emergency food pantry, give out about $5,000 in grocery gift cards. People came and donated. I think DTE sent a van with flashlights and blankets to the mall. You know, SNAP benefits that were increased during the pandemic ended on March 1st. And when folks had to throw away food, formula, you know, even if you have WIC with women, infant, and children, you know, food, that went bad, you know. We've heard from residents in Ward 2 who, a single mom, low-income single mom whose mother is dying of cancer and couldn't afford to pay for all the tree branches to be removed in her backyard. DTE could remove the branches by the lines, but the remainder, you know, I'm really glad community members volunteered and helped clear that. But I think the devastation is really hard on folks who, one, don't know that we exist here in City Council, and you know, and try to figure out like how we can help as individual council members or influence DTE. You know, it's hard to figure out what services are available for people who are in crisis. And at the bare minimum, to have a statement to DTE and say, like, not only has this impacted our city budget, it impacts social service agencies, it impacts individuals, it impacts families who are coming out of a pandemic, and these extra costs really, really hurt families. At the very least, they should listen, and hopefully they'll have a better response ahead of disasters. Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution to support pollinator habitat in Ann Arbor, moved by Councilmember Ackman, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DC1. Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to be bringing this resolution forward from the Environmental Commission, and I wanted to say a few words about why supporting pollinator habitat is so important. Bees and other pollinators touch our lives every day in ways that we probably don't realize or we take for granted. For example, they're responsible for as much as a third of the food that we consume. So a world without them is one in which we have fewer food choices, and the ones that we have less nutrition. Pollinator populations are in decline around the world due to habitat loss, alteration, fragmentation, as well as pesticides. The state of Michigan alone has seen a 61% drop in its bee population over the span of 15 years. So this is really important that we all act in ways that we can to protect pollinators. The Environmental Commission passed this resolution at their last meeting, which was just, I think, a week ago. This is an evolution of something that I think probably everyone remembers from last year, which was No Mow May, that they passed for 2022. I know that a lot of my neighbors participated in this and got excited about it. It allowed emergence and maturation of pollinators that overwinter in our yards. We did learn some things from that effort, namely that depending on the rain, we probably don't need to literally stop mowing our lawn for the entire month. There were some quite long lawns out there, but also, you know, we learned that there was a lot of resident interest. And so the Environmental Commission was looking at this and trying to think of a way, you know, a monoculture of turf grass that's really long isn't ultimately what we're going for. It's a start. But I think concentrating on what we can do year-round and the practices that will actually create habitats that are amenable to pollinators was really the focus of what you see in front of you. So encouraging residents to reduce mowing, especially in the spring, reducing leaf cleanup, as well as you know, having diverse native plantings. So in other words, you know, consider alternatives to turf grass. So you'll notice that this resolution talks about a communication plan. I think the Environmental Commission is eager to work with staff on different seasonal campaigns, such as a spring emphasizing the mowing frequency. I did want to note that everything that is in here complies with our current ordinances, so there's nothing that has to be an exception. I think the limit is 12 inches for grass, so I guess that's it.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DC2, resolution to ratify an emergency best source purchase order with the Davy Tree Experts Company, Davy, for branch collection in the amount of $250,000 and increase the purchase order amount $200,000 for debris cleanup related to the February 22 and March 3, 2023 ice and snowstorms and to appropriate the necessary funding, $450,000. Moved by Councilmember Dish, second by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, of DC2. For my part, I am delighted that we are bringing this forward here today. As folks know, throughout the city, we had massive snow and ice storms, which resulted in limb and tree fall throughout our community. Some of the tree falls, of course, and limbs were city trees owned by the city on the right-of-way, but there were also limb and tree falls throughout residents' properties. Without regard to whether the trees were city trees or the personal property of property owners, the city is excited to help residents throughout the community in cleaning up these tree branches. And so we have offered this free and follow-on service to residents to pick up street trees throughout the community. It, of course, costs a fair bit of coin because we are requiring, contracting folks who are not presently city employees to pick up hundreds of tons of trees that we were not anticipating, that were not in our prior work plan. This is a service that I know we are rolling out. We are rolling out to be responsive to a unforeseen community need, and we are also observing that this is something which has happened and I suspect will happen in the future. And so, even as we are responding to this on the immediate, I have confidence looking forward to see how we can plan to engage a similar or even more impactful event in years to come. Further discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, Councilor Ackman.
I just had a question. I'm not sure if city administrator could answer this, but I noticed that the total, I think, is $450,000, and I think the last meeting you said it was quite a bit more. So does this reflect what we think it's ultimately going to cost, or are there potentially, do we not quite know?
Mr. Stieglitz is available. We'd indicated a higher number, and if we need to come back for more, we'll do that. But this keeps us moving. But Mr. Stieglitz, if he wants to answer any further.
Oh, I think you answered it how I would have answered it, is this is pretty dynamic. We're about a third of the way through the city right now, and as we get into new neighborhoods, it's hard to know. It hasn't hit the whole city equally. So we're continuing to evaluate as we move through the city, and we'll probably have better information on what we anticipate the full cost to be in a few more weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you. In the memo, it said that the entirety of the cleanup will not be complete with these funds, and I'm wondering if Mr. Stieglitz or Mr. Dohoney could give sort of a picture as to what that looks like to get us across the finish line.
Again, I think it's going to take us a few more weeks. We're ramping up our services over the course of this week, and we're also going to be able to augment some of the work by using some city staff. So we may be able to offset some of the contractor costs associated with the cleanup by utilizing city staff to help complete the work. So I think we'll have more information in a few weeks, but at this point, this is the best information that we have. And I guess we're optimistic that we'll be able to make a pretty good headway with the funds that are being allocating through this resolution tonight.
Further discussion? All in favor? opposed. It is approved with 11 council members present, all voting the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. DB2, resolution to approve the North Maple Apartments Site Plan and Development Agreement 1815, 1855, and 1875 North Maple Road and 1921 Calvin Street. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of DB2. Councilmember Dish.
Thank you, Mayor. So it is welcome to see a project that hits just about all of the city's major priority initiatives: sustainability, affordability, and greater density where there is infrastructure to support it. The site location abuts an off-ramp for N14 and an existing double-lane urban roundabout, and it lies on Maple Road, a major transit corridor that's well-served by buses. The site plan proposes a 4-story, 79-unit apartment building and a single-story clubhouse. There's going to be a mix of 15 studios, 48 one-bedroom apartments, and 16 two-bedroom apartments. So that's nice diversity within the project. As for sustainability, we've heard a lot about that, but I will just assure you that the PUD regulations stipulate. So this is what the zoning calls for, and even if this project were not to happen for some reason, which I have no reason to think that it would not, this is what this parcel will be zoned for. It stipulates the development will be all electric, equipped with solar panels and batteries to offset 15% of its annual energy use. It will be insulated above building code requirements to minimize heat loss and maximize the panel's effectiveness. The developer described the design of the geothermal heating. That was nice. It will also be equipped with high-efficiency LED lighting, Energy Star appliances, and operable triple-pane windows, which is great. The project supports alternative transportation, as we've spoken. There will be 65 parking spaces off-street for 79 units. And the idea here isn't to make people get rid of all their cars, but let's make it easier step by step for people to drive less. And one great step is to take the bus to work and back. The project is well situated to facilitate such a step. So we've heard about affordability. The developer is required to provide 15% permanently affordable housing units on site. That would be 12 units total, or by payment in lieu. And there's a formula that is used to say exactly what that would mean. We will also see additional required public benefits, such as a refuge island to be provided in North Maple Road, which is wide, preservation of wetlands, stormwater management, and a $51,000 contribution to the Parks Fund.
Further discussion, Councilmember Song.
So if you take a look a bit farther down Maple Road at Hickory Way Apartments, you'll note that it's about a similar size, 3 stories. Similar size of 84 units. We have a number of them at 60% AMI. I feel like this new project would contribute to that, enhance our existing work. Looking back through Legistar, we did a rezoning for the parcel by Hickory Way, the South Maple Apartments. We, meaning City Council, back in 2017, Avalon was able to get tax credits from MSHDA in 2018. And then only just last year, we had a groundbreaking for the second phase of the development project, right? So if we're looking at the timeline from 2017 to 2022 to get to a point where we have around 70 units, that's a long timeline. And now we have a project in front of us that not only helps us maybe tighten that timeline a little bit, but add to our much-needed housing stock for a community at 60% AMI. And if for folks who aren't following, that's about $60K a year for a 4-person household in Ann Arbor. $100K a year is the average AMI. This is needed housing. It meets needs along a transit corridor so that we won't be contributing to more traffic, more commuter traffic. And it's nearby a high school, a popular high school. We approved a development by Pioneer High School not too long ago, a much larger development across from Pioneer. So I think this work is in line with what we've been doing for at least the past 5 years, well before many of us were on council. And as far as I know, the Hickory Way Apartments and Avalon Housing has not been disruptive to community members. And I hope the conversation changes from, I was here first, and I get to decide who my neighbors are, to I welcome more neighbors because I want others to experience the same benefits, and that our incoming neighbors are here for the exact same reasons that folks are here for: school, work. And I hope that we have a nice welcome wagon for them at this opening. And come groundbreaking, I expect all of us to be there as well as neighbors. Thank you.
Councilmember Briggs.
I'm not going to go through all the good attributes of this project because we've heard them all now a couple of times. I just will reiterate how supportive I am of seeing this development move forward. The development team has been wonderful in terms of working with the community, working with residents, working to make sure that council members understand what's coming. I have heard. I've only heard positive things about this project until this evening, and only positive things from residents in the city of Ann Arbor. So I am, this is the type of development that we need to see more of in city. It's sustainable. It is has a good mix of housing, of unit types within it. There's affordable housing contained within it. It's along our transit corridors. It represents nice, gentle density in a proximity to where people can shop, work, go to school. So I'm very excited to support this tonight.
Councilmember Iyer.
Thank you. Just briefly, this is exactly the type of project that I'm excited to approve. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this. And, I think, again, like Councilmember Briggs, I've only heard positive things until tonight. I think the negative things that we heard were based on some very serious misconceptions about what this project is. So, not only do I, will I be enthusiastically approving this, but it really makes me think, when we have a project like this come forward, and that stands in contrast to some other developments that come forward where the developer says, oh, we can't make it fully electric. I would love to find a way for developers in the city to be sharing information about how they get there. So I just plant that seed. And again, thank you for your work on this. And I'll, again, be enthusiastically supporting this tonight.
Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It is approved. DS1, resolution authorizing publication of notice of intent to issue revenue bonds and reimbursement of certain expenses in the amount of $45 million. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of DS1. Councilmember Briggs.
Can I ask for a brief staff intro on this?
Ms. Prashant will be joining us on Zoom. Marty, I don't know if you heard us. We were looking for a staff introduction.
I'm sorry, I did not receive a staff introduction question regarding this issue, so if you could just repeat the question for me, I'd appreciate it.
Councilmember Briggs.
Sure. Basically, I was just hoping you could provide a little bit more, describe a little bit more, what these bonds are. I know this is step one of, two-step process. Just provide a little bit more information for the community about how this works. And I think we got a question that was raised during public comment as well that maybe you could hit on as well in terms of are we approaching this differently than we had in the past? And then finally, if you could just talk to, the memo's not explicit about kind of, what these funds are going to be used for.
Certainly. The public services area has a robust capital improvements plan in the water fund scheduled for the next 2 fiscal years that total in excess of $62 million. We will be seeking to fund a portion of those projects by issuing standard revenue bonds that will be paid back over a period of 20 to 30 years for those capital improvements. This would be the first step in that process of issuing those bonds, and this is actually quite a normal process for funding significant capital improvement projects.
Thank you. For Councilmember Dish.
Yep. That one. I just wanted to re-ask a little bit. So is this for in part the water treatment plant redo, or?
No, this issuance is mostly to fund distribution projects, several distribution projects, as a matter of fact. When we get to the point where we are ready to take on the water treatment facility, we will be likely using an alternative method for available federal programs for that project.
So by distribution projects, would that mean, are we building new infrastructure, replacing?
It's replacing
pipes?
existing infrastructure, so that basically means pipes in the ground, replacing infrastructure underground.
Further discussion? Councilmember Briggs?
I just wanted to thank Councilmember Dish for asking that follow-up question, because I actually had misinterpreted the memo incorrectly. So that was very helpful for me in terms of how these funds were going to be used.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Cornell.
Yes. I figured I knew I was going to screw that up.
Councilmember Cornell,
Yes.
Councilmember Dish,
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison,
Yes.
Councilmember Song,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
Yes.
Councilmember Redina,
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin,
Yes.
Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman,
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs,
Yes.
motion carries.
Ms. Cord, do we have the pleasure of a closed session today? We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report, moved by Councilmember Watson, second by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion of the clerk's report. All in favor? Opposed? The clerk's report is approved. Do we have communications today from our city attorney? We have no public comment overflow. In that case, may I have a motion to adjourn, please, moved by Councilmember Watson, second by Councilmember Dish. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.